savetheSigs.co.uk, sponsors of the Haze Hour.
As indeed they are. And he's back! He's back! Look!
It
He's
hasn't
back.
been that long, surely.
It's been a month, Keith.
A month? Well,
It's been a month since you were last with us.
how time flies.
Doesn't it just?
It does.
It seems like it's been for absolute ever.
It does in a way,
I-
doesn't it?
It's been a long while.
Yes.
And
A
you've-
week off for
Yeah.
Christmas.
Week off for Christmas.
And then the next
Between
week
Christmas
I
and New
wasn't-
Year.
Yeah, then the next week I wasn't. Did I miss two?
It might be 5 actually.
No.
Well,
it's
not
that.
sure, but it might be 5. Poorly bad in bed with a shawl on, both feet in one sock, waiting for the doctor to come and rub your chest with Vic.
Oh, yes.
And then Vicky, poorly bad in bed with a shawl on, both feet in one sock, waiting for the doctor to come and rub her chest with Keith. No, that's not right, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
So I think there was 2 weeks, and then you were ill, and it's been a while. It's been. I'm sure Chat will tell us, and then Chris will tell us how long it's been from there.
Yeah, well, that's awful, that, isn't it?
Well, you're entitled to some time off, but
Good.
there's been all kinds happening since you were
Oh,
with
you'll
us.
have to bring me up to date then.
Well, the European Union has launched the revisions, or the proposed revisions to the Tobacco Products Directive, which effectively will ban e-cigs as we know them.
Well, that would be the EU, wouldn't it?
That would be the EU. So we've been getting quite active, really, in opposing this, and everybody's going to see their MPs and MEPs and MSPs and AMs and all kinds of other initials of people that you can go and see to oppose all of this.
Well, has there been any publicity in the press about that?
Not in the press as much, no. It's been very...
Not on the telly either?
no, there's been e-cig advertising on the telly.
Oh, I missed that.
Both VIP, I think it is. No, not VIP. Sky Sig and E-Lights are advertising on the telly. E-Lights more so than Sky Sig.
Oh,
Sky
right.
Sig's on, I think, Dave or one of those ones.
Right.
So that's been happening. What else has been happening? The eVic came out and got roundly trounced by everybody. Everybody said the same thing. It's obviously made by the brothers Height, Utash and Pylosh. You know, the 2 Hungarian brothers.
No.
The brothers Height. Their surname's Height. Utash and Pylosh.
No.
Utash Height and Pylosh Height.
But you gotta explain it, it doesn't work.
No. Can I say it properly, Chris? Utashite and Pylosh, yes.
It just clicked. Yes, it just... Sorry, I'm slow. Oh, right.
Yeah, so the first iteration of the firmware was taken as being not very good, and then they came out with version 1.1, which a lot of us installed because a lot of us bought the eVic because it was going to be techno trickery, and we installed 1.1 and it was much better. And in fact, I'm using mine an awful lot. The only thing that really bugs me is this self-switchy offy thing that it does.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, I've put a stainless steel coat on it,
Right.
which is quite pleasant. In fact, if I go to my little close-up cam and pull it up here, folks will be able to see this. This is the stainless steel, and it's quite hefty and nice. And I have on top of it what I've put on it on loan from Chris is a Hellfire. Is this the Mega, Chris? Ah, she's gone. I think that's the Hellfire Mega.
It is the Mega, yes.
It is the Mega, yes. And that combination is an absolute delight. I'm loving it to bits.
Right.
Producers, have a blast. You might find it's a bit heavy for your tastes in stainless steel garb, but it is very pleasant and quite nice to have there. Gesundheit. That's it there. That's the button. What do you make of that then? Isn't it?
It is.
That's the
Right.
Hellfire And the thing I did with that, I rolled the mesh, but I didn't torch it. And I rolled it so that it was a tiny little wee bit narrower than the hole that it goes through. And it's a tiny little wee hole in that thing anyway. But I rolled it so that it wasn't going to touch, and then formed the coil on a drill bit and made sure that that was absolutely solid. Dropped the mesh through and let it oxidise itself. And it's been given perfect flavour and working for... When did I get it, Chris? Must be over a week ago.
Oh, it's a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
And what have you got in it?
That would be RY6 that's in there. That's a 50-50 mix that's in.
Very, very mellow, for want of a better word.
Yeah. Well, it's running at about 7.5 watts. Is that? Just as you say, a mellow vape. It's there to be. It's there to be kind of just enjoyed. It's not a smack you in the mouth.
That's right.
You know.
Yes.
It's kind of like you would get a vanilla batty in the pipe, really.
Mm.
For something smooth and mellow and nice. You're enjoying that, aren't you?
Very nice, that.
Yeah?
Yes.
Weighty for you? Is it shirt pocketable?
No, I don't think so.
No, you'd be walking with a list.
Yes.
Definitely be walking with a list with that.
Beautifully engineered, isn't it? When you look
Oh,
at the whole,
that, as I said, that's not the standard case that comes with the eVic. The standard tube and nose end are in aluminium, and they're a bit light.
Right.
They're a bit kind of. There's a word up in this part of the world, ladies and gentlemen, that we use. It's called femmer. And if you knew what femmer was, it's
delicate.
Delicate. That's exactly it. That's the proper word. Delicate. And it does feel a little bit delicate, a little bit. Femmer kind of sums it up a bit better, you know.
That's really producing a beautiful flavour.
It's gorgeous. I mean, Chris had been telling me for donkey's ages about this Hellfire, and when I went across to Ireland, she says, he'll be there, the lad that makes them will be there. Get us a Hellfire, get us 2, get us 4, get as many as you can of these Hellfires. She went mad, crackers, get them, just get them, doesn't matter how much they are, get them. And I said, well, why? She says, oh, they're brilliant. And then she's loaned us it, and I've got to say, it's not the easiest to set up. Truthfully speaking, it isn't the easiest to set up. It's not as easy, say, as the Ivy. And definitely not as easy as an NGP. But once you're in the way of it, it's straightforward. That's the word I would use.
So in that sense, it'll be no good to me.
Well, I don't know. I to be honest, I think when it comes down to winding these coils, I think it's just a matter of practice. I can well imagine.
Reluctantly give you it back.
Thank you very much, because you weren't going to get out of the house with it. Not this time.
No.
Unless you've got real dexterity issues or even vision issues, I suppose. It really is just a matter of practice. I suppose it's a bit like these clever folks that are capable of doing all the fine painting on pottery and know the kind of fiddly hobbies.
Yes.
Some people would call them faffy. It's no worse than that once you understand how.
Yes.
And once you realise that you can't just go cramming the mesh down into it and that kind of thing. But once you've got that worked out, as I say, it is an absolute delight. So the eVic though was where we came from, wasn't it? Yeah. So there's now version 1.2 of the software is on its way out, and they usually knock it into beta a week or 10 days before it goes live. So that should be out next week sometime. We think version 1.2, and that promises to take the whole experience into a completely different area, because then you'll be able to set the voltages at each stage of the button press.
Right.
So you'll be able to see, and if I don't know, but when you press the button, it counts up. Yeah.
Yes.
So of course, if you know that after a while that your average draw length is, let's say, 6 seconds, and what you want is, I don't know, 8 watts when it starts out to get it going, and then drop it down to 7 watts after 2 seconds for the rest of the 6 seconds. Apparently you're going to be able to set it to do that with the new software,
Right.
which is interesting. I don't know how many people will use it, but I shall certainly be looking
So how
at it.
do you
trying.
set it down again?
What, back to where
Yes.
this all happens on computers.
Right.
You plug it into a PC.
Right.
Oh yes. I did
God,
promise there'd be no
where-
techno trickery in the first half.
I mean, where does it? Yes. Where does it stop? Technology.
Well, they're making use of the microprocessors that are available to them,
Yes.
aren't they? And it's kind of nice because there's a lot of people have kind of a hobbyist approach to the whole thing, and a lot of folks
Yes.
are gadget heads. And if they like gadgety stuff, well, you know, you've got to kind of say what's to stop them from. It might encourage folks to get in. You just don't know. But certainly, from my point of view, I quite like the idea of playing with the whole technical side of things, which is all good.
Well, yes. Yes.
You know.
Oh, that's impressive. From the point of view of somebody just actually smoking it, if you know what I mean.
Indeed I do. As you say, I mean, as the two combined, and aside from anything else, I'll move those out of the way and hit Closey Uppy Cam because it's the inaugural Closey Uppy Cam of the new setup. So what I've got to do is do that there, and then that there, and then do that there, and we'll show up on
yes.
Closey Uppy Cam. There you are. You can see the beast in all its splendour. The combination of the two, you would think they had been made by the same people. If you look at the top of that and the stainless steel section of the eVic, which came from high-end-smoke.de, you would think they'd been made by the same people. And it even looks to be, I know there's a lot of talk about gaplessness around the bottom, and it's as close as you're going to get without it actually being gapless, aside from the step. But I'm pretty sure, I know I've got the stainless steel nose that'll taper to that. I think, I'm not absolutely certain, but I think that people had been looking at something like this for the tapered nose to go to.
I think if you look at the thing as a whole, I like the sort of black band. That seems to set it up.
It's black and silver, it's rock and roll, and you've got to be really careful with this Hellfire not to tip it, because it does spill juice. You didn't tell us that, Chris.
Ah, right.
Because of the way it's set up, you see, there's air holes in the deck
Right.
to let the juice flow, and if you keep it tipped on the side, you can guarantee leakage.
It'll leak.
There'll be juice everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
So you've got to keep it stood up, in effect.
Yeah, which is another good thing about the eVic with this stainless steel body. It does actually stand
Yes.
very, very sturdily. It's I like the way it works. So for me, it was worthwhile buying, and I'm looking forward to version 1.2 of the software. And if I'm pretty sure that in the not too distant future, people will be starting to get on board with I was going to say hacking the firmware, but they'll not. They'll start writing their own firmware once they find out how it all works. And then you'll see all sorts of different bits and bobs coming out. But so far, very good. And this Hellfire, I think Chris and I might be having a conversation off air,
Right.
because I'm really liking this. I wasn't expecting to, but I am really liking the way that works. I think its reputation might be deserved. It's taking its place with my other two favourites.
Oh, yes.
My Cobra, which is currently sat atop the telescope, and my Fogatti, which I've hidden out of the way because I knew you were coming tonight.
Right.
That's my excuse, and
Yeah.
I am sticking to it. Indeed. What else has been happening while you've been away? It's kind of a roundup of the last month, really. We've seen the rise of e-shisha.
Right. Go on.
It's nicotine-free e-cigs, effectively, that are very, very heavy in flavour.
Oh, right.
And again, very refreshing. not something I could use for any length of time, but if the EU gets its own way, that's probably all we're going to be left with. Very refreshing, very colourful, very pretty. You might say very feminine. I couldn't possibly comment. But yeah, nice.
So, do we know why the EU are taking this line? I mean, what's the background to that?
Well, there's all kinds of conspiracy theories. They say that they're doing it to try to promote public health. I say it's nanny statism gone completely wild. We've discussed it a lot on VT Talk, and it just seems to me that what they're doing is they're trying to find a way. They seem to have this idea that if it's something that's designed to help you stop harming yourself or other people, it has to be a medicine.
Right.
Now, whether that's an ideological thing, whether they just control freaks, whatever it is it happens to be, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say what the real motivation of the whole thing
So,
is.
they're taking advice from a sort of variety of medical sources, or
They have started the procedure through the European Parliament, and it's quite a steady route. It starts with the publication of the proposal to the Parliament and the Commission. That's been done.
right?
It then goes out to Parliament first for the first reading of it, and that happens on the 25th of February.
Mhm.
They then pass it to the Commission, and the Commission goes through it. And if any amendments come from Parliament at the first reading, if there's anything proposed, it goes to the Commission as well. Then the Commission does all of their bits and bobs on it and takes evidence and does whatever it needs to do. Then it gets passed to Parliament for the second reading
Right.
with any amendments, and then all of that little lot goes through, and all the amendments are discussed and debated and haggled over and wrangled over. Then it goes back to the Commission, and the Commission does it the second time, and then they send it back for adoption. But the Parliament can say, no, we're not adopting it. That's not what we want, because it gets debated a third time. And it'll go back to the Commission. Then it shuttles backwards and forwards between the Commission and Parliament until finally they've come up with something that's acceptable to both. It could take up to 18 months for this to happen.
Right. So presumably individual governments will have an opportunity to pass on their opinions to the representatives in the European Parliament.
Not just governments. Us.
Right.
We can contact our MPs and ask them to make representation to the departments in our government that are responsible, and this happens Europe-wide. We can also contact our MEPs, and should be doing, and let our feelings be known to them, and we've featured a couple of programmes on them. And having done that, we need to be entering an ongoing conversation with our MEPs, because they'll reply to letters if we ask them to, and if they come back with something we don't like, we need to go back and tell them how it all comes together. That's what should happen. And there are some very good reasons for all of this. In fact, I have a very, very good reason for wanting to make sure that the EU doesn't get shot of them. And if I've picked the right number, I will share that reason with everybody. Ladies, get your hankies out. Gentlemen, I apologise.
Yes, so this is Owen, my grandson. You're a good lad, aren't you? Huh? And you someday all of this will be your, oh dearie me, that's a yawn and a half. Someday all of this will be yours. So it will. You'll be able to sit here and do all sorts of things. You'll be able to look down the camera, talk to people. You will. And you'll be able to sit and press buttons, make things happen. Indeed. That's exactly what we do. So, I suppose I ought to do the jalapeno kind of thing. Only you're not my son, my grandson, aren't you? Yes? If people say you look like me, that's because you're bald.
Stop looking at me now.
Oh, dearie me.
I can see me in this.
Oh, dearie me. Oh. How are you then? Come and get a cuddle. I know, that's what you want. Up you come. There you go. We're going to try for a burp? I will. We'll have a try for a burp. Little scratch on the back. Are we ready? Oh.
He's very tired.
Are we tired?
I kind of thought he might have passed out in the car.
I'll tell you what. This is what grandparents do. When a grandson gets groggy, you go back to your mum. There you are, mummy. There you go. That's done.
Oh, come on, let's go for a walk around the living room, shall we? If all else fails, we'll have a splash in.
Safersix.co.uk sponsors of the Haze Hour.
Good evening, potentially. Took a little while to get things lined up and ready to go. But I'm here now, so welcome to the stack of episodes.
So there we go, we're back in the room and not long to go now. So yeah, I was talking to my son and he's watching me make things before.
And a very good morning to you. It is Tuesday, the 20th of November 2012, and you're tuned into BBC. At the VH Verti TV Towers. Tonight being Wednesday night, it is time for the one and only talk show programme called VT Talk. This is the Haze Hour. Again, Kate was just saying if it wasn't for the titles, he wouldn't come and do the show. He loves it so much, really.
iViper and iViper Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's iViper.co.uk and iViper-elixir.co.uk. iViper and iViper-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of VaporTrails.tv.
Yes indeed, there you go. That's my reason. Owen, that's my reason for opposing all of this. I want to be around and see that lad married. And I know for a certain fact, if the EU gets its own way and gets rid of everything other than 4 milligram and below Nick juice, I'll end up back on the fags. So, no. But there's plenty you can do. There is plenty you can do in order to help out and keep this effort going. And let's see what Clive Bates has got to say on it. You'll be interested in this, Keith.
So the simple thing to do is to start just by draft a letter. Draft up what you think about this. You personally, what you absolutely think about it. And use that letter to write to your MEPs, and you'll probably have half a dozen MEPs if you're typical, because of the way the MEP system is organised. You'll have one MP. You can write a letter to them, and that's got you started. That's got you making an impression and starting to add to their postbag. Now, everybody can do this, and everybody who feels at risk from this type of regulation should do it. We live in a democracy, and it requires people to stand up and be counted when things are happening that they don't like, because you can't just rely on elections for this sort of thing. So the guide on my website, clivebates.com, says basically who to write to, how to find them. There's a really good website called writetothem.org. Really, really good. Totally recommend it. It's a total labour saving device, which you type in your postcode, it will tell you who your MP is, who your MEP is, and it will set you up to email a letter to them, to all of them. I always recommend writing, taking a bit of time over it. If it's important to you, take a bit of time over it. Write individual letters to each of your MEPs and your MP. And then you've got to think about what you're going to say in these letters. And all the letters can be basically the same, maybe with a bit of personalization, but all the letters can be basically the same. You want to talk about your own experience and why it matters to you. You want to talk about why you think the directive is, or what's proposed is bad, and particularly if it's bad for you personally. And I keep stressing the you personally thing because authenticity counts. The real impact on real people really matters to politicians, not some sort of theoretical thing that's been worked out through a study, but what it means to you personally, because that's what they're thinking of. That's what they're thinking of when you're trying to get your vote and trying to respond to what you need. Then you need some ideas for what might be done. And then you want to make sure that you frame the letter in a way that gets a response. And a lot of people just will sit down and write down their point of view. But if you ask for a response or you ask them to do something, they either have to do it or reply that they're not going to do it. So that's the sort of fourth element of writing a good letter. Try and make sure that you trigger some action from the letter that you're doing.
Indeed, that's exactly what you should be doing, he said. Get onto your MEP. Now,
Sorry, who is this chap?
Clive Bates used to be the Action on Smoking and Health Supremo, the last but one.
Oh, right.
He was the big I am in Action on Smoking and Health. And therefore, you know, he knows how to go on about these things, and he knows what's going to work and what's not. So it's kind of really whatever he says, do.
I liked his use of the word democracy, which I thought was rather funny, because that's not a word you would normally associate with the EU, is it?
Well, no, I suppose not. But there you go. I mean, that's what everybody can do. Everybody can write to their MEP, and I would strongly suggest you do, because you'll have reasons why you want to see everything stay, well, not exactly as it is, but certainly not things going to the extent that the EU is proposing. So I take it you'll be writing to your MEP?
Yes.
Good. And
I think it would be useful to write to your MP as well.
Well, I've been to see ours.
All right.
Nice girl. She's taken the case up. I've had a letter back from her to say that she's talking to Jeremy Hunt about it, and she'll keep me appraised. But
right.
Again, I would suggest that people go to their MP surgeries, and then you can take the gear with you and say, look, this is what we use, this is why we use it, and blow a bit of vapour in their face and let them see it's not going to hurt.
So, did you actually go to a surgery? Or?
Yeah. It was across in Silksworth. I mean, our office is just up the road, as you know.
Yeah.
But I went up to Silksworth and spent 20 minutes with her and sat and talked to her and gave her the full SP, you know.
Yeah.
So have a gander along.
Mm.
Why not? It can work. Shall we blast on with something beginnery? I've you know, I troll the forums.
Yes.
Troll, TRAWL, not troll TROLL. That's a different thing altogether. And I've been seeing there's a lot of new folks. And I noticed that last night in chat, somebody even commented on, oh, that's how you pronounce propylene glycol.
Right.
Or propylene glycol, because they weren't sure what PG was, or even what VG was. And I thought it might be useful to kind of run through the differences between VG and PG, but not in an abstract sort of technical term, but a shootout.
Well, it brings you back to this whole beginners thing, doesn't it?
It does a bit, yes. So what I've done, I have here two otherwise identical bottles of RY6, both 36 milligram, but the one on the left is called PG, and the one on the right is VG.
Right.
Yes, you got it that time, did you?
I did, yes.
Yes. So we've got pure VG in this one, and we've got pure PG in that one, both from Vapor World, both decant juices, RY6. And what I've also done, he said, bringing up closely up he can because he can, is I've cracked open two brand new eye mists, right? And what we'll do, it's dead easy, is this. We'll set one up with VG.
Yeah.
And these are brand spanking new. So we'll set one up. I don't know what other people do with that rubbish. I just chuck it on the floor. But I love the way these things are set up. So we'll set this one up with VG. Do-de-do-de-dum-dum-die. Suffice it to say, a half-kilogram bottle doesn't come with a snipe neck. And what I always do with one of these things is just put 1, 2, 3, 4 drops on as the starter for 10. Right?
Yes.
Now that's a pure glycerin. And what I'll do, I think, is clag it onto a Z-Max. Make sure it works. Yep. Set that to 10 watts. And while I'm filling the other one up, I want you to have a few talks off that. And I'll set the other one up with the PG. Now, if you would be so good, it would be lovely if you could describe for the people what you're getting out of it. That's pure VG, that one. And we need to be at it for a little while because there might be differences in wicking, or there might not. You just enjoyed it, haven't you?
Easy draw, nice flavour.
Mm-hmm. Hasn't burned
Not
or anything.
harsh on the throat, no burning sensation at all.
No, nothing like that.
No,
Right.
very pleasant.
Well, what I shall do, I'll set the eVic to 10 watts as well, because I can. I just need to find something to stand this Hellfire in. Otherwise it'll all go to hell in a handcart, and we can't be having that, can we? That would just be terrible, wouldn't it? Give it a quick wipe down so there's no cross-contamination of any description. And I shall set the eVic for 10 watts. And I happen to know, because I've tested them out, that they're both devices at 10 watts are identical.
Right.
So it's identical power, identical frequencies, identical everything. There's no difference between them. So you've got the VG one there. On the Sigelli Z-Max, Z-Max, whichever way you want to put it. And I've got the propylene glycol here. The PG. All the same stuff. And I shall just set it now to 10 watts. It should go. It will go. Exactly 10 watts. And I'll take it back to the pair of us on screen, he said. Or maybe not. Yeah, go on, it will. That's it. Right, so you've got the VG,
Yes.
I've got the PG. And what we'll do is we'll have a bit of a drag and then swap over.
Right.
So you would characterise that as being mellow.
Yes.
What about vapour production?
Seems to me good.
Okay. Yes. Right. I'll tell you what, I'll swap you. And I want to know how the PG compares to the VG
Right.
in your mind. There's a hell of a difference between the two. You look pensive
Pensive. Ah.
or thoughtful
Good
even.
word, that. That I would say is a more mellow
Ah,
flavour.
what about throat hit?
A stronger throat hit on this one, I would have said.
From the PG?
Yes.
Yes. What about vapour production?
Can't see a lot of difference in vapour production. If anything, that might be slightly better on vapour production. But I don't think there's much in it.
Well, what I'm going to have to try and do is kind of time talks and see like how one man does it. I'm going to end up with a Nick Rush, I think, on this one. And what I'll go to my one closely up cam here, and we'll start with, this is the VG on the Z-Max at 10 watts. And if you can keep a count, have you got a second hand on your watch?
Yes.
Right. Count me down to 0 and tell me 5 seconds.
Well, hang on a second.
And we'll go.
Right. Right.
That's the VG, and I didn't do it very well. We'll try it again. 5 seconds. 5 seconds.
Right.
Just count, but count. Give me 3, 2, 1. It's no good shouting right.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right, that's the glycerin one. And if I go to the two of us shot, you can see that it's around. Right, so now the propylene glycol. Same thing again. 5 seconds, and let's see what happens. We'll do the closey up you can and see what difference it makes. Why it keeps on doing that to me, I don't know. Take that off. Right.
Okay.
Yep, count me down.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Much thinner.
Yes.
Much thinner. If I go to that, it disappears a lot quicker.
Yes.
So the glycerin gives you a much thicker, chewier juice. If you try it again after you've had the PG. The one thing I do notice, I mean, the eye mists are very good at wicking, and it isn't a problem. But with glycerin, particularly the thicker juice, it can take an awful lot longer to get it to wick properly the way you need it to actually get through. It can do if you've got something that's basically a bit kind of iffy on the wicking sense. Then glycerin does take more wicking. Propylene glycol moves through an awful lot quicker. It'll wick a lot better, but it doesn't give you that chewiness of juice. So throat hit, we've said yes, we like the throat hit.
Mm.
Yeah, we like the throat hit without a shadow of a doubt. We like the throat hit. We get a lot of throat hit off the propylene glycol, not as much throat hit off the glycerin.
That's right.
We get more vapour out of the glycerin,
Yes.
not as much out of the propylene glycol.
Yeah.
Now, flavour. These are both the same flavour. So which carries it best? Are there any differences between the two that you can see?
Yeah, I think the first one had the edge.
The glycerin, well, the one you've got now.
Yes.
It does, to me, it does taste a little bit thinner. The flavour is still there, but it's not as sweet, it's not as pronounced.
I would have said more mellow.
This has definitely got an edge to it.
Mm.
That the propylene glycol, that is, has an edge to it.
Yes.
That the glycerin doesn't
Yes.
have. And I think the throat hit as well, when it hits you in the back of the throat, I think it does give you that an expectation, perhaps, of more.
Yes, so it brings you back, doesn't it, to what suits you as an individual.
Well, this is one of the reasons I did this, because you don't just have to have straight propylene glycol or straight glycerin. You can get a mixture of the
Yes.
two. Now, the reason I've got them separate, I usually buy a 50-50 mix, is what I would normally buy. But on this occasion, what I ordered up from Vapor World was half a kilogram of PG and half a kilogram of VG, for the simple reason that using these Genesis type atomizers, I've been noticing there's different wicking rates with different meshes. This is the technical bit,
yes.
if you like. And what I wanted to do was to find out the right proportion See, I like VG. I like thick VG. I like to be able to chew the vapour. And I wanted to find the right proportion to be able to get it to wick perfectly so that I was never running dry, no matter what me mesh wick was like, while giving us as much glycerin as possible. And probably what I should have done, in hindsight, but didn't, was to have got 1 kilogram of the PG and 0.5 kilogram of the VG. That might have been the way to go on it, I don't know. But either way on, it's going to give me the chance to do some experimentation and see where we get with it all. So a 50-50 mix should really give you a halfway house between the two.
The two, yeah.
And give you good, thick, chewy vapour and plentiful throat hit.
Yes.
The one thing we haven't tried, of course, and that's the VG one, so I'll give you that one back. We haven't tried the now world famous nose hit. If you remember that one from 6 weeks ago.
Right.
Where we just suck it in and then put it straight out of the nose without inhaling it down into the lungs at all. And I want to see if there's a difference between the two for that. That's why I've given you the glycerin one first. Because if that smacks you in the nose, then we know we're in trouble. So we'll start with you and that, and a nose hit. And we'll see how that runs. Not managing.
I'm no good at nose.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. I think I can probably manage it. So I'll start this one away with the PG then on nose hit and see, because your nose is more susceptible, more sensitive to nicotine apparently.
Right.
Oh dear me.
Go on, then.
Right. Yes, that one. Yes, I knew I'd done it. So let's go for the VG. Oh, must be crackers. Here we go. It's hitting, but nowhere near as strongly. Not as hard as the PG. No, one of them will make me sneeze. Oh. And now the PG. The things I do for our viewers here. They're about the same.
Are they?
Yeah. Right. Well, they are after you've had 4 or 5. And there's quite a little fug building up
there
in
is,
here now.
Yes.
Quite a little fug. There you are, I've got it. Oh, dear me. Yes, so there you go. That's kind of the difference between PG and VG, and we need to take the second advert. We will be back in 2 minutes from now. See you then.
safercigs.co.uk sponsors of the Haze Hour. And we're back in the room, and I'm
surrounded by vapour.
Yeah, just the thought as we're sort of analysing both of them.
Mm.
Would you have said that one was maybe less risky than the other, or are they on a par from that point of view?
It has been proposed that of the two, a glycerin-based, a VG-based juice carries a lower risk profile, but in order to put things into some kind of perspective, either of them pose less than 1% risk versus cigarettes.
Yes, yes.
And VG is slightly less of a risk than PG.
I think I would have guessed that, yeah, but I thought I'd ask the question.
Yeah.
But as you say, there's very little risk attached to either of them.
Well, in actual fact, when they use glycerols, because these are both glycerols, in theatrical fog and haze, it's mostly propylene glycol,
right.
PG,
Yes.
with some PEG in.
Right.
And they've used the PEG, the PEG 400, because that's quite thin. And even though it is very thin, it puts out as much vapour as does glycerin. That's the beauty behind PEG 400. And I've been using PEG 400 for quite a while in the BM2 mix. But the thing about PEG 400 is it does dry the throat out.
Right.
And it does give you, I think people refer to it as cotton mouth.
All right.
Right? If you use a lot of it, it can dry your chew. You need to drink a lot more if you're using PEG.
Right.
And to some degree, the same is true of PG. The VG, however, tends to make things a little bit more phlegmy.
Right.
So
Right.
you produce mucus more with
Right.
VG. But again, none of the three of them carry anywhere close to the risk of hazard
Obviously not.
that cigarette smoking would. So, you know, it's kind of, they're down and off the scale, really.
Yes.
Not really worth worrying about. As is the case with so many of these things. So yeah, there you go. That's how all that comes together, and it's not bad at all. Did you find that interesting?
I did, yes.
I hope people do. I'm trying to do a bit more
I did.
beginnery stuff because I've seen an awful lot of new people coming to join us here on vaportrails.tv, and that thrills me no end to see all new folks coming to view. Do keep coming. We love to see you. We've got all sorts of shows going on for you at all sorts of different times, and I've just had a look at me clock, and I'm going to be running very, very short of time to do justice to the next piece that we're going to look at. But never mind, it's one of those things, I suppose. And what I was going to look at, he said, switching to closer up you can, is this. Now, this might look familiar to a few people, but it is in fact a VH Verti, V-E-R-T-I, from Vaporhut. 15 quid's worth of PEG-style Genesis atomizer. This is the technical bit.
Right.
Sorry and all that, but it had to happen. And let me go into mega closey uppy and try and show. I do apologise. Sound disappeared when we went to closey uppy camp. So let me try and run you through it again. As I was saying, there is a little fill hole there for a hypodermic. There's an air hole in the top deck. The two pegs, as you might be able to see, are insulated, so they shouldn't be making any current contact with the deck. And it's actually quite easy to set up. It's unless I'm much mistaken, Chris, am I right in thinking it was the first of the line was the first of the commercially available Genesis style Atties?
It was certainly the first that I'm aware of, because we did have Rady's, designs at that point.
Yes.
But they were mostly they were the screw type. So this was sort of innovative.
Indeed. Well, this am I right in thinking that you can't buy the line anymore?
You can't buy it. It's no longer in production, although Van has promised us the new line, which I believe is the Line ES, which we're all waiting very patiently for.
Right.
Some of us not so patiently.
I see. Right. That kind of fills it in, because as much as I can gather, this is a straight copy of a line. It's got the 3 windows. It looks very much the same. I've got to say that having seen Chris's line, yours is version 1, Chris, yes?
Yes, it's in my hand right now.
Right. Well,
but the two are identical. I can't really see a difference.
Right. Well, so there you go. It's pretty much a straightforward copy of the line. Now, whatever you might think about that is entirely up to you, and I'm not even going to share an opinion. I don't have one, but I will say that generally speaking, I don't like folks copying things. And certainly the Cobra copy, the Cobra clone that I bought in from elsewhere to try, was a shoddy facsimile of just ridiculous, and it didn't work anyway. This, on the other hand, I got yesterday, and it's doing the job very well. It's been very easy to use. It's nice in the hand. Again, it matches very nicely with this Z-Max, and it's doing the job. I will say it's going through the juice like nobody's business. And it really, really does produce nicely. That, of course, is down to how you wind the coil and how you put the mesh together. It's not the easiest of them to get used to, but I'm going to say that about most of the Genesis style atomizers. It does take practice like everything else, but it does work extremely nicely, and that's running at 10 watts, much as we had before. Now you've not tried that before, Keith, so have a blast of that and tell us what you think.
That's a very easy draw on that.
That's the bit I don't understand. I think the draw hole, the air hole, must be a different size from the original, because I know Chris likes a tight draw, and I find that one quite an easy draw.
Yeah.
When I've tried hers, I'm serious, I firmly believe that Kat walks about with a bread poultice strapped to the back of her neck to get a draw out of some of the stuff that she uses, that she says is the way she likes it. Because I've had it go, and you end up sucking the teeth out of your out the top of your mouth. You like it tight, don't you, Chris?
I'm going to say no comment.
Hey, there's no wrong with the tight in the mind.
Yes, that's...
You like that, do you? Is it back? Because I've just realised you were closer to the door than I am.
Anyone would think I was a kleptomaniac.
No, not at all. Not at all. Have you weighed your fingers lately?
Weighed them?
Yeah.
No.
Are they very light? Yes.
Yes.
Of course, folks that are brand new to the show, brand new to the channel, will have no idea what we're talking about. No, not at all. I do have something in the other room for you, actually.
Oh, right.
Yes, I have an MT3 for you to play with.
Right. Sounds like a sports car.
Unfortunately not, or fortunately not. It's very, very good replaceable wick and coil assembly, but it's bottom coil, a Kanga MT3, very nice. I've been enjoying them a lot lately. But Jill has decided that she prefers the Vision Eagle.
Right.
So I'll be putting an order in for some more of them, but I like the MT3s. It's down to personal preference again, isn't it? Anyway, back to the line. It's 15 quid. The line, the Verti, the VH Verti. It's 15 quid. Is all it is. And there's been some right dogs sold at 15 quid in various different places. I paid £15 for that. It's worth every penny of it. If you are And here's how I'll characterise it. If you were thinking about going for the real I-Am, one of the, I'm going to call them designer or artisan Genesis style atomizers, but you weren't sure whether you could justify the money. As an introduction to peg style, it's probably worthwhile parting with 15 quid for one of these to see if you can get away with it. Now, I'm here to tell you, I've tried Chris's line and it's beautiful and it is beautifully built. This is all right. It's never going to win prizes for engineering, right? It's all right. I've also tried Chris's Ivy, right? And that suited me down to the ground. We had one or two reservations about the size of the top cap. Both Chris and I think the smaller the top cap, the smaller the chamber, the better the effect. And I would agree with that to a large degree. But for 15 quid as a trier, you know, I won't say it's a no-brainer, but it's pretty close to. It's definitely worth giving it a look. This is after 2 days. I'll report back next week and tell you whether anything's changed. But I'm not expecting that anything will change. Like I say, the build quality is not up to an artisan-made mod. It never will be. But as something that could get you into that line of stuff, it's probably not a bad place to try and to start. Which I see is rapidly bringing us up to 3 minutes to go. Have you enjoyed being back?
I have, yes.
You've been missed, you know that, don't you?
Really?
The chat certainly agree.
Um,
All of them are delighted to see you back, Keith.
I'm seriously.
That's very nice to know.
Every
Thank you.
show that we've done, people have been asking after you and asking after Vicky, wanting to know when you come back, seeking reassurance that you're still walking about and breathing and stuff like that. You are a much loved person.
Oh, well, that's very nice to know. Thank you.
It thrills me to bits because I'm proud to call you a friend.
Yes.
Oh, you're not filling up, are you?
No, not
Sorry.
at all. That's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I'm back next week.
Yes.
Excellent.
The week after might be dodgy, but next week I should certainly be here.
Well, if it comes to that, if we've got to change nights, we'll change nights because our audience likes to see you on the show, and I like to have you on the show. I've missed you something. I've been struggling.
Well, that's very reassuring.
I have been struggling. I'm here.
I'm sure you haven't really, but
seriously, I have. I have. It's never this. I don't feel as easy and as comfortable.
Right.
It's the way it goes.
Right.
But yes, there we go. And I'm saying we've got just under 2 minutes left to go, so I shall start the credits away and rolling as you do, and say thank you to everybody for tuning in and for putting up with the ramblings of this particular idiot and his much more experienced and intelligent
Good
friend.
night and thank you.
That's Keith saying good night. Thank you. We wait until anyway. Never mind. I'd like also to say thank you to Kat for holding my hand for the last few weeks, as she has been doing, and being ready to stand in if needed, and for giving me the sage words of advice on the line and stuff like that. Thanks, Chris.
No bother.
I'm hoping everybody will be able to hear her. Next time you see this studio, hopefully it'll all be very different. We start stripping it out tomorrow morning, and I think we're doing a show on Sunday night because Mr. Kitson is up in the wild and woolies of Scotland chasing haggises round the hills. But until then, from Keith and myself, bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm standing waving and it's not doing anything, you know.
There.
That's us, I think.